You're listening to The Outcue, a 21 News journalist perspective on a top news story.
Hello and welcome to The Outcue. I am Assistant News Director Justin Mitchell, and with me today is our old friend who's been on this broadcast many times, Robert McFerren, all-around news guru, senior digital content manager, and one of the people who, along with myself and others down in the newsroom, dig deep into stories that take a lot of time to bake and kind of come into clarity and into view. So this is a little bit unusual because the story we're talking about today, you may know more about by the time you watch this than we know right now as we are recording this. And what I'm talking about is Foxconn in Lordstown. So we know through sources and through some official confirmation that there's some announcement coming soon for the Lordstown Foxconn plant. And we've known this for a while by working sources, and as a result, Robert has taken the lead in learning as much as we possibly can about all things Foxconn and what could be coming there. As we sit here today, we know that an announcement could come related to Lordstown as soon as this evening, as soon as tonight. It could come later this week. It could bleed into next week, but we think it's going to be this week. Thrown a little bit for a loop by the fact that Foxconn made a big announcement last night, and it's not the announcement we'd been waiting for. So Robert, I guess I want to just take us back to what even got us looking at this to begin with, because we started with a very skeptical view, and it seems less so now.
Yeah, I mean, Foxconn's been around here for a few years. They took over after Lordstown Motors, who bought the former GM plant in 2019. I believe they bought it in 2023.
And they're right in that area to actually buy the plant.
Yeah,
yes.
Bought the plant and have been kind of out there. We really haven't heard much. We've heard other rumblings of, possible cars or tractors, but we just haven't seen a lot.
I mean, I can tell you, I've spoken to the spokesperson for Foxconn in Lordstown, Matt DeWine, several times, to the point where I've said to him, Matt, you have to understand, this is an area that has seen big things happen, but it's also lost big things, and it's seen big promises made that have not come to fruition. So if you guys are doing something there that's going to be a big deal, you have to show us something, because we're all starting to get skeptical that that's an empty building and nothing's happening.
And we watch for anything. So one of those sites that you can find things that are going on, Ohio EPA, because anything that you're going to break ground on or move has to be filed with the Ohio EPA.
Yeah.
So we see a filing with the Ohio EPA for their EV vehicles saying that if the U.S. EPA doesn't or has 45 days to approve the Ohio says we're fine with this approval for them to go ahead with their plan. Now this had been filed a while ago. We're just getting approval so it's a new loop into what's going on out there. Maybe there's something they're getting a permission. That deadline's fast approaching in early August, so we start looking into what's going on there. We get an email from someone who says there isn't anything going on here.
And by the way, the EPA permit, somewhat non-specific. We know that they want to ramp up capacity somehow,
right?
And they want permission to do so, but it's not as though it says, so we can do this thing, and it's not spelled out.
And I don't know, based on the filing, when this was filed, because this could have been still when they were with Lordstown Motors or whatever. So we're not sure what the details are, but we just know, based on that, it's something that's factually that they're reportable.
And so you write a story about that permit.
I write a story about the permit. We get an email from an anonymous source saying, that there's not anything going on here. Alleging that this is, where are you getting this from? So I respond back to the person saying, this is factually correct, but I have not been in the building. I don't know what's going on there. So we decide to start looking into. Let's see we can find. Let's just scour the net for Foxconn stories. Let's see what they're doing, what they're working on. I mean, across the seas, over the oceans, they're number one. I mean, if you have an Apple iPhone, they make your iPhone. If they provide parts, they're a huge electronic manufacturing overseas in Asia, especially.
And so what they haven't done a lot of yet is get fully into the EV business, which is, of course, what we're looking for, I guess, assuming, because this is a former car plant. And again, we don't know exactly what's going on inside this plant.
Right, yeah.
So we start working other sources, anybody who's hearing anything. And what we find is that everybody in that plant has likely signed an NDA, and nobody is going to tell us anything. And it's probably why our source that was saying nothing was happening was so cagey about who they are. We don't know.
Couldn't talk with us.
And they never even attached a name to it. It was always completely anonymous.
Yes.
But the other thing we hear is, no, there might be more to this story than you think. They are being, I say cagey, others have said cautious, but there might be a reason for that is not nefarious.
Right.
Going back to actually the first Trump administration.
Yeah, and during his first administration, there was a major announcement made with Foxconn in Wisconsin that a huge plant was coming here, tens of thousands of employees, $10 billion was going to be spent on the facility. It was going to be their world headquarters, these type of things. So a lot of hype. They started building, but then things changed. So this led to skepticism of what are they really trying to do? And, after looking at it and finding a little more about it, maybe not as much that they weren't doing something as that this was an oversold project, of what they intended to do here.
This was at a time where, as I say, it was the first Trump administration. The reason that that's noteworthy is because, like we're talking now about things like tariffs and trying to bring people to build factories in the United States, that was the discussion happening at the time too. And so there were tweets, and presidential statements being made about this massive, massive thing that was being counted as a win for the administration. So there was a political undertone to this. So now they make, I believe, coffee kiosks at this plant.
That's what it's, yes.
And it's about 1,000 jobs, right?
Right. Yep.
Well, an announcement of a new factory that's going to hire 1,000 people would be greeted as good news.
Yeah.
But it looks like a pretty big letdown if it's compared to an expectation of 10,000 jobs.
Right, because the building they built, I believe Microsoft put an AI center in instead of expanding what they had planned to do there.
Right. So our sources then are telling us that may lead to why you're having a hard time getting any info out of Foxconn, but don't misread that as they're not doing anything.
Right.
We think it's actually that they're not going to get fooled again. They don't want to get burned by overhype.
Yep.
So they're going to get every duck in a row before they say exactly what they're doing. But to a man, every source that we had that would be in a position to know said, but they are going to do something, and it's probably going to be a pretty significant thing for the Valley.
Yep.
So at that point, you start looking into trying to play detective. What could it be?
Because the Hon Hai is the parent company, I guess we'll call it, of Foxconn.
Or international name of Foxconn.
International name, yeah, correct. So that's one of the business they do as their corporate name. Foxconn is a subsidiary or another division. So we just started following everything that they're doing worldwide, looking at. I did a story about they just signed an agreement to work with a German company that's going to work to make operating systems for electric vehicles using AI. Seems insignificant for us here. I don't know what the connection is. I reach out to the press person to see, will this have any impact here? They don't know. They're just saying that it's kind of like your cell phone. It has an operating system. If electric cars have operating systems, you can literally update your car so it's not whatever you buy you get. I can literally update your things. If there's known glitches, I can fix these as we go down the road. It's not just we have to take it to the garage. We can update it through the internet. It's part of an AI plan and a bigger picture of what can be done.
And so that was the German company that they did that.
Yep.
And then there's also partnerships with automakers.
Well, there was a big merger being talked about between Honda and Nissan. Now, Foxconn's COO is a 33-year veteran of Nissan. So this was a lot of chatter here of, that this man knows vehicles.
Right.
So with, our Lordstown facility sitting here, would make sense that, we are looking at possibly, an EV car possibly for here. A lot of chatter about, the merger falls apart in February. Honda and Nissan's not happening. So where are we going to go from here? Well, then we start looking. So if we're getting a car here, just hypothetically, so what are the pros and cons? And I started scouring all the news stories that were releasing anything about or anyone's reporting on. So we see, mentions of car, Honda and Nissan and Mitsubishi, which they signed a memorandum of understanding to work with in May, I believe it was. So they have one, but they said they would also have a planned major announcement on May 28th. They said they were going to have a second Japanese car company that they would have a major announcement coming soon that they would be working with.
So then we start looking at the Nissan connection in particular, and the sources that we speak to told us, I don't know, you guys might be onto something that does add up. And then they say, actually, I'm not so sure. I don't know what it's going to be.
Yeah.
But I don't know that it's going to be Nissan. I really don't know. But the one thing that they keep saying is, but it is happening. There is something happening. It's happening soon. Just simply unsure of what it's going to be. So down to that wire, knowing that there could be an announcement coming soon, I know that Matt DeWine, his demeanor seemed to change a little bit. And what I mean by that is it used to be that it was, you might get, I can't comment, or I don't know, or I'll look into that kind of answers. And of course, no access to really see anything. Well, all of a sudden, he tells you, listen, all I can tell you is watch your inbox.
Right.
Then he tells me yesterday, the higher ups have asked for contact info for local media, meaning this market. So there's something coming here, and this is the most solid confirmation that there is something coming that's outside of just, sources in the shadows.
Right, and then when the share trading stopped yesterday, we assume, and here, this is it.
Exactly, and I think a lot of people were assuming that was it. So we wake up this morning as we tape this. It's Wednesday, so Wednesday morning, and there was an announcement, and it doesn't say anything about jobs or Lordstown. It seems very significant, but it's a partnership with a Texas-based company called TECO, and
they have so they're in Taiwan, but they bought Westinghouse in 1997. They bought anything Westinghouse is out of Pittsburgh, a long-time company there, but they bought it in 97, and then they started changing the name to reflect their name that they were known for overseas. So now it's TECO Westinghouse. They have a facility in Texas that makes engines. Now it seems like now I'm more significant on, wait a minute. So now we have a German company that's going to make operating systems for AI cars and vehicles. We have this company now they're announcing that they're going to be doing AI with, who also makes EV engines. So now we're starting to see like little pieces coming into place of, now, if I were thinking broadly here, well, it looks like they're creating their own supply chain to do something.
And that, by the way, is something that our sources had told us too, that Foxconn sometimes has detractors who are actually frustrated by the fact that they like to control their own supply chains, and sometimes that's helpful, but it does allow them to hold all the cards, so it can sometimes lead to other companies not liking, to sort of play in their sandbox because they do really have a lot of control over it. So now you're seeing this picture, and you see, okay, so there's chips, and there's
they work with NVIDIA, the one of the top chip suppliers, so that's a partnership they have.
And then they work with these other, this company that makes the AI technology, and now a partnership with a company that makes engines and AI technology.
And we know they're working with Mitsubishi for cars, primarily in the Australia area.
So,
but they all want to get into the EV market in North America. They've all written this.
And so it's not crazy to go, okay, well, chips for an electric vehicle, engines for an electric vehicle, AI software for a high-tech electric vehicle.
Where are you going to build?
Where are you going to make the vehicle?
Where are you going to make the vehicle?
And you do have a car plant in Lordstown, Ohio.
You do.
Now, as I say that, I cannot stress enough. We're out on a limb right now.
Yes.
It may not be that.
This is us adding.
This is right. We are now just speculating as best as we can based upon the work you've done, though, Robert. And it could be, and again, this is funny because we're saying it's speculation right now. We don't know when this announcement is coming.
Nope.
So by the time you're watching this, you may be laughing at how far off we were,
Right.
or you may think we're geniuses.
Yeah.
But the truth is we just don't know.
We don't know.
Other than we have lots of pieces moving that point
Yeah.
towards something big.
Right, and there's been lots of people, like, when we do Lordstown stories on our social media, you'll see people laughing, acting as if, oh, you're just buying into this. Well, no, we check into it. We kind of try to work our sources as much as we can
We
to see.
came into this, we were beginning to look with great skepticism.
Absolutely.
Like I said, I told you, Matt DeWine.
This is like we do every story. I don't go in, I don't know where it's going to go, I follow the trail.
I honestly feel a little odd about it because, because there's a bad rap that people sort of write off the journalists are cynical.
Yeah.
And a good journalist is not cynical, but they are always skeptical. You know, our job is to look for where the BS is.
Right, our job is to ask questions and question what's going on.
So when people stand up and say such and such is going to be the greatest thing since sliced bread, we sit back and go, wait a minute, and so that's what we'll continue to do that, and we'll do that whenever this announcement comes too.
And to be fair, we know about the dirigible factor that was going to come here and save the valley after, all the steel mills. So we've all seen this. And so that's why we all have a greater sense of skepticism in this area, I think.
The dirigibles and the blimp, the blimp factory, the Avani factory, the chill can plant.
It goes on and on and on. The next saving thing that was going to save us.
The late, great John Nagy used to joke about and for those of you who don't know, John Nagy, longtime news person in the Mahoning Valley, was with radio for a long time and worked at a couple different capacities. And he used to joke about his T-shirt of the big promises that weren't coming. And so to this day, when there's something that sounds too good to be true,
the government accounting firm.
There you go. The Pentagon project.
Clinton was going to bring it here. Yes.
So so we say, I don't know, this sounds like another one for Nagy's shirt.
Yes.
And so we approach all of these that way because it's our job to stand as protectors of this area, which does not always mean cheerleading. A lot of times it means,
I don't want you to get hurt again.
Right, you're not taking these people for a ride. Right. So we're never going to give you false hope.
Yeah.
I got to tell you right now, everything I'm hearing sounds like there's reason for real hope here.
Yeah.
And it's an odd feeling, but in a good way.
Yeah.
I would love, we were sitting yesterday and talking, Lindsay McCoy and I were talking about what the big stories have been the last few years. And it was like COVID, and it was the East Palestine train derailment, and it was the Realty building explosion.
Yep.
Every year there's one, like it is the big one for the year. I would love to sit here and say that the big local story in 2025 was a major jobs gainer. And by the way, it does look like we're making progress. We're not losing population like we used to. We did a story yesterday about having to build more houses to accommodate the workforce that we're going to need, and that's irrespective of whatever Foxconn announces. Because of Kimberly Clark and because of some other announcements. Kimberly Clark was another one that I was willing to be completely skeptical of, but I can't find anybody who says they're not a great corporate citizen.
I mean, Oldie themselves came in here. We've got 2,200 employees working there now.
Yeah,
so
quietly became they just sort of put up or shut up. I mean, when we learned that they were the largest employer in Trumbull County, that happened completely under cover of night.
Yep, yeah. And I mean, and here's the bottom line on this. I mean, let's say it's not a car. We are going to make coffee kiosk. You know what? If it brings 1,000 jobs, we're going to be happy.
Exactly. We're rooting for this valley. We're not going to let announcements go without trying to really pick them apart. And so in this case, we've got weeks and weeks of trying to look into what might be coming.
Yeah, because they don't release a lot of information. This company holds everything close to the vest, but when they do, it's out there. And so
a little bit of a peek behind the curtain for us, and how you have to plan for this. We also have to take into account that if this announcement comes on Taiwanese time, then we have to account for a 12-hour time difference, which means that this is likely to come in what is the dead of night for us.
Yeah, so midnight is noon for them, so we're...
and we don't know I mean, they might make it, related to local time. It might come in the middle of the night. We don't really know what form this is going to happen. So we just have to sort of stand at the ready. You got any theories beyond what we've expounded upon here?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. We always, find that our big stories are always negative, and I'm looking forward to actually having, fingers crossed, a positive story here that we can do that's truly going to impact, something of the valley for the good.
I will say we spoke to auto line analyst John McElroy earlier in the week, and he speculated that there is a likelihood that it will be some sort of a foreign automaker repatriating, probably to avoid tariffs. Now, they won't be able to completely avoid tariffs. There's absolutely no industry that can completely avoid tariffs. But if they can minimize it, that's probably what's going to be at play. That does not mean that whatever they make is going to necessarily be consumer level affordable just yet. That way beyond where we're at right now. But that it seems to be the analyst's best speculation. I will tell you that the sources that we've talked to have said, I think he's on the right track, but don't know for sure. Nobody knows for sure. This is so close to the vest. Very, very interesting. We're going to watch it really, really closely. And I mean, Robert, I can't stress enough how much, digging into this that you've done. We have to become experts on things that we know nothing about all the time. So I know I didn't know anything about Taiwanese car makers or Taiwanese tech makers.
I didn't even know what time it was there.
What time is it here? But this is the work that we do. This is what you have to do. You have to jump in and really, really try. And I guess in the state of journalism today, more than ever, context matters more than the straight facts. The straight facts get out there a lot of different ways. But only a professionally trained journalist is able to figure out why this matters and what context somebody might be hyping up can be discarded and why this point might not be getting the attention it needs to. You really have to think that way. And so, I mean, I guess I say that as just a means of saying, number one, thank you for all of that you have done on this one. And number two, as a means of letting the audience know that there are always so many moving pieces here, and we're not good. If we have any say in it, we're not going to let anybody take you for a ride, but we're also not out to hurt potential, development that may be coming. And it looks like things look brighter for the Valley than they have looked in the past in a number of ways, at least in the things that we know about. We know about Ultium. We mentioned Kimberly-Clark. We mentioned some of these others. Look, if we're on the precipice of a boom, that's going to benefit all of us, and we are all happy to see it.
And if you know something, call us.
Absolutely. If you know something about this or anything else, call us. And you can reach us at, and by the way, it doesn't have to only be good things. We do like to report good things sometimes, but we'll uncover whatever there is to uncover. I originally thought the topic today was going to have to do with an investigation involving a Trumbull County commissioner, but we'll talk about that next time. But in the meantime, you can always reach us at news@wfmj.com, watchdog@wfmj.com. You can call us at 330-744-8821. You can reach us on Facebook Messenger. You can reach us on Blue Sky. You can watch and like and subscribe to this podcast and our others on YouTube. And you can sign up for our alerts. And you can, if you know how to set up an anonymous email, we get anonymous emails all the time. I don't know how to do that. We sit here in the public, but I get them all the time with that Proton thing where I don't know who I'm talking to. We will still check what
we protect our sources.
Yes, we will always protect our sources. We've got an interview today with somebody whose name we're not going to use. We're here for you, and we're going to stay here for you. And with that, this has been the Outcue.